So we have lawsuits hitting GM right now because of motors in this truck. Customers are buying these trucks and their motors are imploding on them right after they purchase it. So GM is dealing with a lot of problems right now with a lot of their truck motors. We have reports, we have lawsuits that are actually coming out where people are buying trucks just like this one and the motors are imploding on them. And I want to tell you specifically what we're looking at. It's a 2026 6.2 liter V8 and the 3.0 liter, the turbo Duramax, which is what's in this truck right here. And I'll show you the price of this in just a second. But we have reports, we have lawsuits now that these engines are seizing up, even as low as having 500 miles on them. So consumers, what are they doing? They're actually coming, they're buying one of these brand new trucks from a Chevy, from a GM dealer, and they're driving it off the lot, and within 500, 1,500, 2,000 miles, right after they purchase these trucks, these brand new motors are cratering on them. This is a big time problem for GM. A lot of these lawsuits are going to cost them a lot of money. This could be potentially the largest class action lawsuit that we've seen in a very long time. And this is going to hit GM's bottom line because we just went through a lot of motor problems with GM over the last couple years, a lot of their motors imploding. Now we have brand new trucks, brand new motors doing the exact same thing. What is going wrong at GM? All right, and check it out. This is exactly one of these trucks that I'm talking about with the engine failures. This is the Duramax, and I believe this is going to be the 3.0. Yeah, the 3.0 turbo diesel is what we're talking about. It's a 2026 Silverado 1500 crew cab, and here's the price on this thing: $78,000. When you have all your fees, all your taxes, your dock fee, everything that you have to pay on top of this truck, you're probably looking at like $85,000, maybe even $90,000 that you're going to get out the door in a truck like this, depending on the dealership, depending on what they want to charge you. But imagine you buy a $90,000 truck. Let's say it's not. Let's say you get some money off and it's $80,000 out the door. You buy this $80,000 truck, and then 1,500 miles later, the engine craters on this thing. What are you going to do? I mean, yeah, you're going to have it replaced. You're going to be under warranty and everything, but are you going to want to be a GM customer the next time around when you buy a truck? And in a lot of cases, I would assume a lot of those customers are going to be like, you know what? This just happened and they're putting just another motor in it that's the exact same kind of motor. Well, when is this one going to crater? Is it going to even last the warranty, or is it going to crater right after? They're probably not going to want to be in that truck anymore with that experience, because it's not going to be a turnaround in 2 days kind of thing. They're going to have to bring the truck in. They're going to have to wait probably for weeks to get that motor to be able to get it put into their truck. This is a massive, massive problem for GM and a lot of consumers that probably just bought these trucks. That's why we're seeing a lot of lawsuits. We're seeing a lot of reports of this happening. This is a big time problem. So here's another problem for a GM that they're going to have to solve, and that's just perception of how good their trucks are. So we know that like a couple years ago, Toyota had a very similar problem with a lot of their Tundras and Tacomas. And what happened? Well, the Toyota dealers then started becoming overrun with these Tundras and these Tacomas, because the perception were, well, these new turbo engines, well, they're absolute garbage coming out of Toyota, so I don't want to buy that truck. And for the used side, I actually saw this happen in real time. I'm a small used car dealer. I go to a lot of these used car dealer auctions, and along this time, what happened? Well, all the V8, the older V8 Toyota motors in a lot of these trucks, well, those Tundras actually went way up in value because there were people that wanted a new truck, but they weren't going to go and buy a brand new one from Toyota because they were scared to death of the motors. So they went to the last year model that actually had that V8 that was reliable, and they started buying those. So Toyota actually lost those consumers. You're going to see the same thing happen with GM, where this perception of, even if the certain model of trucks that have these particular motors on them, those are bad, but the rest of the motors are absolutely fine. This is not going to have that same kind of motor that's imploding like the one that we talked earlier. But just because now there's this perception that, okay, GM motors are absolute garbage, maybe the other ones are 100% fine and they'll go for 300,000 miles without any problem whatsoever. But there's going to be a perception now over this, there's going to be a dark cloud over all of GM's products that, okay, we know that these motors have imploded on themselves, and they have done it within just thousands of miles of actually buying it. Why would I go and buy a GM product right now when I have the potential of getting this motor and it's going to be absolute garbage? So that's something that GM's going to have to change and figure out how to do it. And it's going to be, it hurt Toyota in a big way with their trucks a few years ago, and it's going to be the same thing here at GM. I fear for them.
We talk a lot about money on this channel. Car payments, credit cards, budgeting, and people just trying to make sense of where their money is actually going. Monarch is a private, ad-free personal finance platform that's built to bring all your accounts into one clean dashboard. Instead of jumping between bank apps, credit cards, and spreadsheets, everything syncs into one place so you can see the full financial picture at a glance. Monarch lets you view spending, net worth, debt payoff progress, and recurring bills in a single view. You can separate fixed expenses from flexible spending and customize categories so things stay organized without being overly rigid. It also includes AI-powered insights that help explain changes in spending or net worth in plain English, so numbers have context instead of just sitting there. Monarch is read-only with bank-level encryption, syncs with 13,000 plus institutions, and because it's ad-free, you're the customer. There's also a shared viewed option for couples, so both people can see the same financial picture and stay aligned. If you're looking for a straightforward way to track and understand your finances without spreadsheets or ads, click the link down in the description below or scan the QR code on screen to start your free trial and get 50% off your first year with code CAR50. And I want to thank Monarch for sponsoring this video.
And we have other problems coming out of GM just for quality that you're seeing being built. And of the three manufacturers here in the US, GM, Stellantis, and Ford, it always seemed to be like GM was like the adult in the room. They would always be doing the best with inventory. We have problems with that right now. They seem to be having the best quality of the three, and now we're seeing even more recalls. We have a stop sale right now on the newer Corvettes because they have exterior light faults. Now this is probably going to be a easy fix, and they're going to have all these recalls. They're going to do them. They're going to fix them in the ones that they have sitting at their lots right now. But the problem is we just have more and more problems stacking on top of themselves, and it just it creates this aura around the company of, okay, we make bad products and we have to fix the products. Yeah, maybe we can fix them, but now consumers know that we make bad products. And it's not just GM that's having this issue. I mentioned the other two, Stellantis and Ford. They also have major problems, major recalls, and it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The more I'm reporting this, it seems like anytime I look up a brand that I'm talking about, Ford, I'll just say Ford recalls, and there'll just be a monster list of them. Stellantis the same way, Ram, Dodge, and then now we have GM that's also having just a monster list of recalls, of issues, of lawsuits because of poor quality. And I'm afraid as margins continue to shrink, as affordability continues to shrink here in the market, corners are going to be cut, and when that happens, quality goes down. And this is what we have to deal with. We have to deal with motors that implode on themselves because we cut corners, because we have to keep the shareholders happy, and the only way to do that is by keeping our margins high. And people can't afford the crazy high prices, so to keep prices somewhat lower than what they probably need to be with better quality, well, you got to make crappy products. And it's going to be an element of this market and the consumer where if their dealerships are having a harder time selling their actual trucks because people just can't afford them right now, they're not spending money, there's fear in the market, the consumer's weaker, affordability, always a problem, credit becoming more of a problem right now. All of these things are happening in the market right now. Well, it's going to make it very difficult for these dealerships to move vehicles. So even if you have the adult in the room, you have GM, you have Chevy, that's not overloading their dealerships with inventory, they might not be able to help it at this point because their dealerships are going to not be able to sell as well as they could. They still have to get product out. And just in this quarter right now, I have the inventory levels that are up another 6%. So things are only getting worse. I mean, who talks about Buick anymore, but you get it right here, right? So we're down by 32.6%. That makes sense for Buick, right? Nobody's talking about Buick. Nobody cares about Buick. Probably shouldn't even be a product that GM is even focused on right now. But you have a lot of these like just dead brands sitting around a lot of these manufacturers. I mean, you have Lincoln that has a ton of trouble with Ford. You have at Stellantis, I mean, you have Chrysler. That's, I don't even know why Chrysler's even there. But as markets get worse, as it gets more difficult to sell a lot of these vehicles, you're going to have those brands that nobody talks about, that nobody really wants, nothing's exciting about them. Buick falls into that. Those are going to fall off the most because you have to get people excited about actually buying vehicles. And who's going to buy a Buick, even if it is a little bit cheaper, when you can buy something similar at Chevy or GM, and in a lot of cases they're the same product. But nobody cares about Buick, and that's going to be probably one of the casualties that comes out of this market downturn that we're talking about. Chrysler is another big one. I don't even know why Chrysler is even still around. And then Buick's just going to fall into that same vein. So now with sales getting weaker, with dealerships increasing their day supply of inventory, with more and more problems that are creeping up here in this car market, what does a manufacturer like GM do? Well, the easiest thing to do is make vehicles more available to the average consumer that's coming into their dealerships. How do you do that? Well, you give them credit. And so what GM's doing right now is they're offering 5.9% interest for 84 months. 84 months on a lot of these vehicles, probably a lot of these trucks that we're talking about here today. And that's really the only way that people are going to be able to get into these things, by just continue to extend these loans, make them longer. I've now seen like 96-month loans on these trucks. And even at that, you're still seeing a lot of these trucks that are at $1,000 a month. It's absolutely insane, and people are still signing up for them. I mean, you have to come to where the people are when they're coming into the dealership. And a lot of these people, what are they doing? They're payment buyers. They're not looking at, okay, it's a $100,000 truck. They're looking at, okay, well, I can afford like $950 a month. What, can you get me into one of these big boys right here? Yeah, we can do that. Just you're going to be paying on it till you're dead, and it's just it. Here's the thing. There are a lot of consumers out there that don't care about what the total is that they're actually paying on these vehicles. Those consumers are the ones that a lot of these companies, a lot of these dealerships are now going after. They have to keep their margins high, and those are the consumers that pay it. So I get the comment all the time, well, Brandon, who's buying these trucks? This truck's $96,000. This truck's $120,000. Who's buying this truck? Are just rich people? No, these people are broke. They're broke, and these companies they're giving them a 10-year loan on a truck that's going to last 7 years. That's what's happening. See that in a lot of the comments too. Well, you see all these people that are buying cars at CarMax getting 7-year loans. The car's going to last 3 years. What's going to happen then? Well, that customer's going to be in a world of hurt. But I want to go back to the quality thing that we talked about earlier, and how it affects me as a small used car dealer. You watch this channel, you know what I am. A car dealer sells cars $5,000 and under, and in a lot of cases, the cars that I buy are 10 and 15 years old. So what worries me, and now 10 years from now, I'm not going to be able to buy these trucks and be able to sell them for a cheap whatever. I'm probably going to be a car dealer that's $10,000 and under at that point, the way that prices go. But even at that point, I'm not going to be able to buy probably a lot of these trucks to be able to sell them at that price point whenever we get that way. But just across the general market, even vehicles, sedans, small SUVs that are being produced right now, 10, 15 years from now, I will have to buy them. And what worries me with my business is that all the quality that we're seeing, all the quality destruction, all the problems that we're seeing right now out of these vehicles, how are they going to hold up 10 years from now? And that worries me a lot, because I feel like we're making disposable vehicles right now, and the more years and more miles that we put on them, it's going to be even worse. And it worries me because that might mean that I might be out of business in 10 or 15 years, because the cars that are available to me to be able to purchase to sell to my consumers, they're not going to be running. The motors are just going to crater on them. The transmissions are going to be garbage. Everything, all these screens are going to break. All the sensors that they have to put in these vehicles now. It's not going to be worth me buying these vehicles because of how much you're going to have to fix to even make them usable in the future. So that's That's the scary part for me. The other worry for me is the price points where people have to pay right now for these vehicles, and they're just saying no. So a lot of this volume that would happen in the car market regularly, well, it's not happening right now. And we're seeing it at auctions. We're seeing fewer vehicles that actually come through auctions. Let me turn so you're not in the wind. But whenever we actually do this, well, that means there's fewer vehicles for me to actually buy at the auction. So it's hard for me now, really hard for me right now. It's only going to get worse because the quality is going to continue to just get worse and worse and worse as margins have to stay high for a lot of these shareholders. They can't go back down on their margins. They can't say, okay, well, shareholder, we're making this much for you last year. 2 years from now, they're making half of that just to bring up the quality and to bring down the price. It's not going to fly with their shareholders, and that's who's the boss of this whole ordeal that we're going through the car market. It all comes down to the shareholder. It all comes down to making money. Quality doesn't matter. The consumer doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in this business right now to these companies, to these manufacturers, is their bottom line. And if they put out crap products, but they still make a ton of money on them, well, that's what they're going to continue to do. It's bad news for me in the future. My business is probably not going to exist 10, 15 years from now because the vehicles are just going to be throwaway vehicles. People are going to be like, okay, well, buy a new car. It lasts 10 years, maybe. Well, now it's so bad that it's not even worth fixing. We throw it away. It winds up at a used car dealer auction like mine, and now I'm like, okay, well, I can buy this car for $2,000, but it's going to cost me $3,000 to fix it. And then at that point, the car is only worth $2,500. It's not worth it. Business doesn't make sense for me in that standpoint. I hope that that's not what happens, but it really seems like that's what's going to happen.